So, today we're tackling a really complex and honestly a pretty sensitive topic. We're going to unpack what our source material suggests are the systemic roots of behaviors that can often feel, well, pretty destructive.
Okay, so the analysis we're digging into today doesn't pull any punches. It starts with this incredibly direct and, let's face it, uncomfortable question. It's a huge generalization, for sure, but it's a feeling or a perception that many people have probably bumped into. So what's really going on here?
And right away, the whole narrative pivots. It makes it super clear that this isn't about the fundamental nature of any group of people. No, not at all. Instead, it's all about the environment, the social, the cultural, and the systemic pressures that literally shape how people act.
So, the first big piece of this puzzle is something really deep-seated. It's this powerful anxiety that comes from being in constant competition for what feels like very limited resources. It all comes back to survival.
This is what's called a scarcity mindset. Imagine you truly believe that all the good stuff, the good jobs, the spots in top universities, even just basic financial security, is in really short supply. That belief fundamentally changes how you see the world. Suddenly, everyone around you isn't just a friend or a colleague. They're a direct competitor for a slice of a very small pie.
And here's where it gets really fascinating. How does this mindset actually translate into behavior? Well, it creates this zero-sum game mentality, this idea that if you get something, that means I lose something. And this can lead to things like actively pulling other people down, sabotage, or just being in this constant state of jealousy and comparison. It's not necessarily about being a bad person, it's about a deep, gnawing fear of being left behind.
And this leads us right to that classic crabs in a bucket idea. You've probably heard of it, right? If one crab starts to climb out of the bucket, the others will literally pull it back down. The key insight here is that this isn't some weird personality flaw. It's a predictable, almost inevitable outcome of an environment that's just steeped in intense social comparison and insecurity.
Wow, this quote really it hits hard because it captures that internal logic so perfectly. It's such a bitter thought, isn't it? But it's born from a feeling of being completely trapped. It's less about truly wanting someone else to fail and more about the pain of watching them escape a situation that you feel stuck in.
So, the big takeaway from this whole first section is this. These behaviors we see are often just learned coping mechanisms. They are a direct human response to an environment that is constantly screaming, "There's not enough to go around." It forces people into this defensive, survival-first mode.
Okay, so if scarcity creates this kind of side-to-side competition with our peers, this next driver looks at the vertical pressure. We're talking about the deep-seated fear of losing your place in a really rigid social structure. It's all about power and hierarchy.
And let's be real. Hierarchy is, well, it's everywhere. You see it within families, with those really strict roles for different generations. You definitely see it at work, with that top-down chain of command. And, of course, you see it all over society, with status, class, and income, creating a very clear pecking order.
So what happens when someone's position on that ladder feels shaky? Well, that insecurity can trigger some pretty destructive behaviors. People might abuse whatever little power they have, or they might try to suppress the talents of others because they see them as a threat. They might even sabotage their juniors. And you know that inflated ego we sometimes see? The source suggests it's often just a shield, a defense mechanism against a terrifying fear of falling.
And this all boils down to a really powerful emotion, the fear of losing control. I mean, think about it. In environments where obedience is considered the highest form of respect, then being in control means you're safe. And in that kind of world, someone who's independent, confident, or asks tough questions, they're not seen as a rising star. They're seen as a threat to the entire system.
So how do people react when they perceive that kind of threat? Well, they might try to dominate them, to put them in their place. They might publicly undermine their work, or they might justify their actions by saying they're just trying to teach them a lesson about their role in the hierarchy.
And here is the real punchline. These actions, which on the surface look like big displays of strength and authority, are so often coming from the complete opposite place. They're rooted in a profound fear of losing status, losing control, and losing safety.
All right, let's move on to our third and final factor. This is one I think we can all relate to. The incredible built-up stress that comes from the patterns and pressures of just daily life.
First up, there's the whole issue of boundaries, or maybe a lack of them. The source material points to this cultural tendency where everything just sort of bleeds together. Your personal life, your family life, your work life.
This can create a sense of entitlement to be involved in other people's business, which leads to interference that feels really intrusive, sometimes even destructive.
I mean, we've all seen this, right? It shows up as that constant stream of unsolicited advice, people trying to correct your life choices, or criticizing you for decisions that don't fit the traditional mold. Even if the intention is good, the impact can be really negative.
And on top of that, you have this constant low-grade hum of immense social stress. Just think about the daily grind, the traffic, the noise, the crowds. Now add intense pressure from your job, money worries, and the constant weight of social expectations. These things just build up day after day after day.
And here's the thing about all that frustration and anxiety. It's like steam building up in a pressure cooker. It doesn't just magically disappear. If there's no healthy outlet for it, like hobbies or therapy or strong community support, it has to go somewhere. It has to find a way out.
And what does that release look like when it's misdirected? Yep, it looks exactly like the so-called destructive behaviors we've been discussing. It can explode as anger, it can leak out as malicious gossip, it can manifest as sabotage at work or as a need to dominate the people around you. They're all just symptoms of a system that's completely overloaded with stress.
So, okay, after looking at all these different factors, what's the real story here? Let's try and bring it all together.
The behavior that we label as destructive, it's not random. It's not coming from nowhere. It's the output of a really complex system, one that's fueled by a scarcity mindset, reinforced by rigid social hierarchies, and then triggered by the immense, unresolved stress of just trying to get by.
At the end of the day, it really boils down to this. What we see as someone's deliberate intention to destroy is very often just their own stress and insecurity, completely misdirected. And that realization reframes the whole problem, doesn't it? It stops being about individual morality and starts being about our collective well-being.
And that leaves us with a final and I think a really powerful question to chew on. If the system is the primary architect of these behaviors, then just pointing fingers at individuals is never going to fix the root cause. So the real question we should be asking ourselves is this: what needs to change in the system itself to create a more supportive, more secure, and way more constructive environment for every single person?